Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Your Money, Your Mission podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Mould. Today, we're diving into the world of personal finance and exploring how young professionals can establish a healthy money mindset. Joining me today is Brittany Sparks, our Assistant Vice President, Branch Manager with expertise in financial management. Brittany, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
This is such a great topic. Let's start with the basics. We're thinking about young professionals, and it's so important that if they start in the right ways, they really set themselves up for long-term success. And I know values is a critical part of that. Can you share with me your thoughts on what it means to really establish those financial values?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first question I would ask you is, where are your priorities? So if you're currently in college or you're just starting on your career, maybe it's paying off the debt you accumulated. Or if you're looking to buy a home, it could be purchasing one and getting ready for a mortgage. Otherwise, you could have something where maybe you want to start an emergency fund because that's the next step. So once you identify those, I really feel that you can make good decisions going forward.
Right. So it's really kind of looking at where they are in that moment and prioritizing what the most immediate need or concern is. That makes a lot of sense. When you think about helping some of these young professionals identify their goals and knowing that there's a lot of social pressures when you start out. I know sometimes I'll have someone who's just finished medical school and now they've got their first job as an intern, and they need to have the house and they kind of need to fit the mold, but they still have significant debt. They're earning, but they're not at a place that they ultimately will be. And then there's these other pressures. Life happens, weddings, and you want to travel. There's just all these things. How do you balance all of those wants and help a young professional kind of figure out how to prioritize and work with certain goals?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really hot topic. Right now, if you weren't aware, there's been an 86% increase in the cost of travel pre-pandemic for things like, out-of-state weddings, lavish bachelorette parties, bachelor parties, guys' golfing trip. And this is really a shift because this is all social media influence. Like, we're looking and we're seeing things on a constant basis, and we're making financial decisions based on what we see. And I mean, I'm even guilty of it. Like, I'm booking a vacation solely because I saw it on Instagram. Now, I can promise you, I have budgeted for it. The budgeting guru is speaking. I have budgeted for this, so I can do it. But it weighed on my decision financially. So if I had to give anyone some advice, I would give them some healthy strategy habits. And the first one I would think of would be to set a clear budget and stick to it. So, you can avoid financial stress. And that's why that matters, because you don't want to have resentment later. So before anything is booked, take a look at what your year's going to look like. Maybe you're in a season of weddings where you're going to be the bridesmaid for 3 or 4 weddings, and plan ahead, because in the end, that's going to be realistic about what you can afford.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about social media, because all the images that we are bombarded with, I mean, I'm even guilty of the after work kind of scrolling, right?
Yes.
And just kind of seeing what you see. And so much of it is, this is how you should be living. This is what you should be having. It's normal to go on a yacht. What? I know. So
Not the yacht. No.
So do you see a lot of that
Yes.
influencing the expectations? They talk about what they think it should look like.
Yes, I think that we base everything now on what we see because we're trying to achieve kind of like that keeping up with the Kardashians lifestyle. And it's weighing on us. And it can be so hard to build a healthy mindset financially when you're just being inundated with, this place is the best, or have you gone here, or have you eaten here, or have you dressed like this?
Do you find that you have to help them kind of back up when you're counseling someone about their financial mindset, that they need to think about what really makes them happy, or maybe look at goals and how to get there? Is that helpful in kind of subverting that distorted view of what it should look like?
Yeah. So I always tell people that if they're looking at this and it's weighing on them, that some of the things that they can do is they can communicate their financial situation early. And so by doing so, it kind of brings that transparency and openness to what they're capable of doing. And it's going to matter because you can keep expectations realistic and avoid the feeling of like a negative outlook. Because I think we're living in the moment all the time. We're in fear of missing out, and we're afraid of what our friends are going to think and say of us. So that's one way that can really help. And it could be something like, hey, I'd love to join you, but my budget is this. Is there anywhere that I can fit in? And most people will be understanding. I think that anyone explaining where they're at, it's always tough. But coming from a place of grace and empathy and saying, hey, I'd love to be with you. Like, this is what you mean to me. This is where I'm at in my life, and this is what I'm able to do. I can afford this much, or I'm able to join for this portion of the trip. I'd like to be able to do something with you maybe when you come back, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be a good for me to attend this time. So those are things that you can say, that you're truthful, you're honest. Will there be disappointment? Absolutely. I mean, there's always disappointment when someone says they can't join a trip, but it doesn't change the outcome that you're setting up healthy boundaries and you're sticking to them and honoring them.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
One thing that really sticks with me is Taylor Swift recently said on a podcast that her time and energy is expensive. And it's very true. So protect your time and energy. Even though you're going for the purpose of celebrating someone else, you deserve to have a good time. Why would you give up your financial security towards a trip or an event that might be a distant memory, or you could have maybe miserable debt later that you have to deal with? And it's okay. Like, it's okay to say no.
It sounds like what you're talking about is them really trying to understand their opportunity costs. I can do this portion, but if I try to do the whole thing, I am going to cost myself, like you said, the time, the energy, or maybe some goal that they could reach if they really just felt comfortable with where they are.
Yeah.
And getting comfortable with saying where you are and being able to explain that, I think, would give you a sense of power as well.
Absolutely.
Saying, I know where I'm at, I know where I want to be, and I'm comfortable having that conversation.
And we need to say no.
Right.
That's the hardest part, is we need to learn to say no and be okay with it. Sometimes we're in a season of life where no's the answer now, but it won't be later. I mean, I'm sure you can relate and had, a season of no's. I have, when I was in college just starting out and working several jobs and eating ramen noodles.
Oh my gosh, I so remember the no years. I felt so sorry for myself. But ultimately, saying no then allowed me to say yes to a lot of things in my future that I wouldn't have been able to had I not buckled down and done what I needed to do.
Yeah, and it's that self-reflection, right? You're like, okay, I have to say no now, but it's like greater things are coming my way in the future.
And it's interesting you bring up the travel and the weddings have gotten so expensive. And I certainly had an experience when I was asked to be the maid of honor for a friend during a period of my life that I was still in graduate school. I had no money. I mean, it was tight as tight could be. And I so wanted to honor her, but I knew, I could wear the dress, but I couldn't bring a gift, and I couldn't, do any of the really extra stuff that you would normally do. She was just so grateful that I was able to show up and stand in for, as her maid of honor. That was fine.
I was asked to be in a wedding. I mean, I was like, we went to a nice dinner and I had to order like water and the chicken. Like I couldn't afford it, but I wanted to be there. And so I cut a lot of corners to make it happen. And we are still amazing friends to this day. And I recently went to Cabo for my birthday, and I wanted my friend to come so bad. And so I was able to, years later now, pay for half of her trip, and we budgeted very strategically to make sure she could make it. But I look back then and I'm like, oh my goodness, I probably was not the best bridesmaid, but now, me and her are sitting on a beach together enjoying the sunshine, all because of my commitment to my financial journey.
Right. And the truest friends certainly understand that and support that. And I think we've seen that play itself out over the years. And I would imagine it's comforting for someone to hear I get no is not easy. Like it doesn't feel good and it's hard, but when you do it, there is this potential to really have better control over
and
your
your friends still love you.
They
do.
They
do. It's okay. Like we're
and
out.
If they don't, they're probably not your friends.
And change friends. Absolutely. And also for the people who are planning, when they're taking the lead and they're planning things, they have to be flexible and understanding to other people's situations. A lot has changed in the last 5 years. And so they need to be aware of that and be willing to work with others to, is it about the trip itself? Is it about the event? Is it about the social pressures? Or is it about being with the people that you love and care about?
Right. Which is really, we're seeing that's why people want to get together and do these things now. That period of time where we couldn't was so debilitating that being able to celebrate with people, I understand the desire to do that. So I think it's important that when we're talking about, that immediate gratification, that once you get past being able to say no and kind of control your day to day, win the day, as they say, that it's also important that at times the earlier you can think about your long-term financial future, the better you're going to be in that future.
Yeah.
So do you find it's difficult to get young professionals to think down the road that far?
Oh, absolutely. Because like,
Okay.
who has any money right now? You know, when you
Right.
think long term, you're like,
It's
well,
like,
I don't have anything. What am I going to
like,
do?
what are you going to plan
Yes.
with? Why, I'm not going to do my estate plan because I have nothing to give
I have
anyone.
nothing to give anyone. I got to wait
Right.
it out. So what I would say is I would start small, because the small step can be a big goal. So if you can begin by maybe as easy as like building an emergency fund, put $500 away, $1,000 away for like an unexpected event that might come in your life. That's huge. Like,
Right.
congratulations. And then move on from that. So create yourself a financial plan. I mean, begin budgeting and take advantage of now while you're young. Take advantage of 401ks and IRAs, retirement accounts, because that's going to set you up for huge success in later years.
Yeah, yeah. And I know one of the things you're a big advocate of is financial planning, and for people really kind of availing themselves of some of the things that are on all the websites, certainly are understanding their finances a little bit better. Maybe taking a financial literacy class. Is that one of the things that also you think is important?
Yes. So I would say find a podcast, listen to us, go on johnsonfinancialgroup.com. They have many blogs out there, tools that are given on how to save, change your lifestyle. And even if you're over 40, it's not too late. Like, you can back up and begin again. So that's just my encouragement, is like really take advantage of the tools that anyone has to offer, even if it's searching the web and finding things. And accountability is big too. So
Right.
find someone to hold you accountable, because sometimes you just need that little umph in your life, for the next step.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's interesting. We talked about, like, they go, why am I doing this? All I have is debt or nothing. And the reality is, if they would at least sit down, even with that debt, and look at their income and do a financial plan, you can see at what point you will have the kind of assets that you can grow. You'll see what some of the decisions that you make, how they're going to result in what you have down the road. So financial planning at any stage is probably a good idea.
Yeah, you might think like, oh, I need to wait to have this amount to talk to a financial advisor. They're going to talk to you at any stage of your life, because it's going to matter. And the habits you build now are only going to get better as you get older and older. And it's going to become second nature, which then you're set up for success.
That makes a lot of sense. So what other tips would you have for a young professional that's maybe got their first job and is very excited about that first paycheck? What's the best way to set themselves up for success?
So I would start small and be consistent, because it is a marathon, not a sprint. You have little wins. And then as you begin to change your lifestyle from your 20s to your 30s and your 40s, it's going to become second nature. And then you're going to be on a successful track for a financial future.
So one of the things that I've always said to clients, especially the younger ones when they're coming in, is, and this is something I wish I had done at the very beginning, is have a relationship with a banker. I didn't honestly even know that was a thing when I got my first job, that there would be someone there that could really guide me in some of those decisions, what credit card, the best loan rates, that relationship would have some power behind it. They also tend to know a lot of advisors that can help. They can get you in touch with a financial advisor who could help you do a financial plan. Would you say that's one of the key people that you start with, trying to have a banking relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not a lot of young adults actually go into the bank. I would say walk in one day and introduce yourself to someone. I mean, you might be able to go on digital banking, and nowadays you can set up accounts, but having that connection can really offer up advice and sound advice and direction. And we're here to listen.
Right, right. And that is such an important point, because having that personal relationship when you're ready to move into those next stages of life can be really helpful. The first home, when you want to set up the college fund for the kids, when you're thinking about that elaborate wedding, how to finance it and what to do, that can be wonderful to have someone with that experience or those connections that can give you some support.
Yeah.
So we start small. You're recommending people be consistent. As people move into those other life stages, maybe they're more established in their career now, and they may be looking at either getting a different job or starting a family. Are there any steps that you would advise them to take as they start to have more stability in their income and the debt starting to, maybe lessen, or they've got a better handle on it? Is there any other things that they should start exploring that they maybe didn't at the very beginning stages?
So I would pause then and I'd go back and review, because depending on how consistent you are, it might have been a while. Then I would get my strength group around and my, financial. So seek wisdom from family or friends that you see are financially successful. Sometimes our generation doesn't speak about money a lot, or maybe our parents didn't speak about money to us. So I think it's important to find kind of like that family that you can share those concerns or those next steps. And then if not, then, find a financial institution that has a group of people that will rally around you and sit down with them, and they'll listen and discover kind of like where you want to go. And sometimes they'll just lay out a plan for you and guide you.
Right. Financial planning at any stage is really valuable. But when you get to a stage where you're starting to make those life decisions, I can see that as being pivotal. And that probably is also the time when you want to think about all the additional pieces, how your investment, if you have a 401k or if you started investing on your own, how that ties in. And then some people will forget, again, like I said before, they don't even think about the estate planning because they go, well, I'm too young and we're never going to die and we're never going to have anything happen. And the reality is things happen. So certainly as you're building your life and you're starting your family, those pieces become really critical. And they're all part of this larger picture and sets them up for better success. You're never too young to have a power of attorney and an estate plan.
No, you should get one right when you're 18.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. When your children are 18, you got to remind them you need to have this. So they're great documents to have in place. Brittany, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
And thanks to all of you who have joined us today. If you have questions you'd like us to tackle, make sure you put them in the show notes and hit submit. And don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes of Your Money, Your Mission, the podcast designed to turn complex financial situations into actionable advice. Powered by Johnson Financial Group.
This podcast is not a recommendation to buy or sell any investment or financial product. Whether a particular investment or financial solution is right for you depends on the facts of your particular situation. Please consult your own professional advisors prior to taking any action based on the content of this podcast. Bank services are provided by Johnson Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Bank services are provided without regard to race, color, national origin, sex, handicap, or familial status.